Welcome back to the Akalband podcast. I'm your host Mubin Noor, and this is episode 2, which again, I am alone. I ain't got no guests. I ain't got enough friends. I have some friends, and they're like great friends, but not enough friends to actually get on this podcast. Anyways, so I guess the first episode was about a show. I thought let's just continue that theme because I watched this other show that I really liked, and why not? Why not talk about it? And if I can get someone to watch this show, and if it won't change their lives, but if it'll make them smile for a second, I guess I'm doing my job as a part of the community, right? So the show that I want to talk about is called Dollface, and to give you a little background about the actors and I'll talk about what the show is about, but it stars Kat Dennings, and I think a lot of us have seen Two Broke Girls. So Kat Dennings is the one with black hair. I love her. She's great. She was also in WandaVision. She's a great actress. She does comedy. She does great comedy. And this show is comedic, but it's like kind of drama comedy. It's kind of trippy, I'll be honest, because I watched the first season. There are 2 seasons so far. The second season just came out, I think, a month ago or something. I don't know. I don't watch them legally, so I'm not sure when they be coming out where. But this one's on Hulu. And the theme itself is, it starts off with the character gets broken up with by her boyfriend. And in the time that she had been dating this person, she had kind of lost touch with her friends, because I guess I really relate to that, because I feel like when I have a set group of people that are enough for me, I guess, I don't feel the need to socialize anywhere else, and that can be a negative thing, and I guess those are my introvert tendencies. But so that's what she does. Like when she's in the relationship, she totally forgets that she has these friends, and like these amazing friends. So after she gets dumped, it's she goes back to her friends, and the story continues from there. So speaking of the characters, the 2 best friends that are firstly introduced are Brenda Song, and I think a lot of us would know Brenda Song from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. She played London Tipton. Love her. She's done a few other. She's like commercially successful-ish, but I really liked her then, and her acting is great here as well. And I actually hadn't seen enough of her, so I'm really glad that she got this role, and she's such a prominent she's a prominent character, and she plays the role really well. And so the other best friend is Shay Mitchell. Shay Mitchell's from Pretty Little Liars. And I think I love the casting because it's something you wouldn't expect. When I first saw Brenda Song, I knew her name. Like, I know a lot of these people's names, but I'm like, wow, she's in here. I love that. Like, good for her. Like, that's amazing. Because first of all, I even found out about this show. I think I found it. I honestly can't even remember. It's probably like Whitney Cummings' podcast or something, because I've been listening to a lot of those, and I guess they mention Kat Dennings. Or I saw like a clip of it on YouTube. I can't remember how I came across it, but really glad that I did. So yeah, Shay Mitchell, Brenda Song, really, I would say, like, for Shay Mitchell's acting, I love her. She's really pretty. I mean, undoubtedly pretty. But I guess even the character she has now, it's kind of like typecasted. She's supposed to be the pretty friend, the one who's always outgoing and who's always extroverted and has experienced the world, as opposed to Brenda Song's character, who's a little more uptight and a bit more like professional. Like, no, we gotta do this. We gotta, be professional about everything. But I guess they play their roles well, and I guess that's what the main reasoning behind the casting is and should be. So I guess that's all that matters. And I don't know who the boyfriend is. I'll have to look that up. But you barely even see him in the show, because that storyline kind of ends right at the beginning of the show. I think it's 10 episodes each season, so total of 20 episodes, and they're like 20 something minutes each. So it's not that long. And yeah, like I said, it's trippy in the sense where like you have it's like you're going into someone's subconscious with Kat Dennings' character. And she goes on this weird journey where she starts seeing a woman with the head of a cat, and that's a very recurring theme in the series. Yet again, I don't want to give too much away in case somebody wants to watch it, but I was really pleasantly surprised how it's trippy, but it's still it continues a story. The pacing of the story is really nice, and it's kind of relatable. I wouldn't have ever thought that somebody would make a series about someone dating and then forgetting their friends and coming back to their friends and how they navigate rekindling that friendship. And it's extremely relatable for me because, like, bitch, I've been there a few times. Luckily for me, the friends I have now, they kind of know that I be doing that. So I guess I have good friends in the sense they understand when I won't take huge gaps, and it won't be because of somebody that I'm dating because I like barely date. But I'll just have these instances where I will gravitate towards certain people, and then I'll not be as communicative to other people. Yeah, so the fourth character is played by Esther Pravitsky. Esther Pravitsky I discovered after watching the first season, and I think I really got to know her as a person when I watched her on the podcast with Whitney Cummings. And she's also a comedian, so I guess all them comedians do be knowing each other. So her character's arc kind of develops different to the first two friends that we have, would be Brenda Song and Shay Mitchell, in the sense that she's not one of the OG friends. She kind of becomes friends with them afterwards. So that kind of route is different, and her character is very unique. And I guess that's just the incredible writing. Each character, although there's like enough similarities for them to actually make sense on paper, like, yeah, these could be friends, they have their own unique traits. And uh it's very fun. It's such like a breath of fresh air. It is some like a drama, but um it's still fun to watch. So the characters we have: Esther Pavitsky is playing Isadora. Then we have Kat Dennings as the main character. What's her name? Wait, I can't remember her name. Right, her name is Jules. So Jules's main character, Brenda Songs, plays Madison, and then we have Shay Mitchell playing Stella. So yeah, I guess there have been some episodes that have been like really like, what is happening? I have no idea what's going on. Yet again, it's still you still get a sense of storyline because it kind of travels into like the subconscious of Kat Dennings' character. So you're like, okay, there's like this whole Wizard of Oz themed episode where it's the writing is super clever, like especially in that episode, there are like little hints here and there, like the way things are portrayed, the storyline, which character is portraying which character from the Wizard of Oz, like the lion with courage and the Tin Man and all these, the Scarecrow. So it's very interesting to have such a playful writing on this because it's untraditional and it's kind of like enlightening to see the randomness in this show. And it's not that popular. Like, I'm sure if anyone listening, I doubt you've heard of this, especially with the bold type that I did. A lot of people hadn't heard of that either. And yet again, this is on Hulu. Like, Hulu really do be giving them out budgets, right? Because like the budget of this series is actually really good. And for something that's not as popular, I think Hulu kind of really struggles when it comes to marketing because I see Netflix ads everywhere. And although Netflix series are good, these are actually on par, but I just never hear of them because I guess my crowd isn't the same. And I think another recurring theme with this and the bold type is it's very feminist forward, and I'm really into those kind of shows. It's a very female driven. The storyline is female driven. All the powerful characters are female driven. You have your guys in there, fair share and representing, for both good and bad reasons. Because it's not an unrealistic portrayal of men. It's still realistic, and you have these great guys, and it never feels like they're legitimately bashing on the guy just because it's a female driven show. So Yeah, Hulu is really doing actually really good, and Hulu is has also gotten the spin-off for How I Met Your Mother, which is How I Met Your Father with Hilary Duff, and I am like a huge Hilary Duff stan. Like, I'm honestly a huge supporter, and I loved Hilary Duff was my first ever album that I actually kind of listened to, so I guess she's always gonna be in my top three. So that show, the first two or three episodes were great, but as it's progressing, I'm not really feeling it. And I maybe it's just because when I saw the first three episodes to How I Met Your Father, I was expecting something terrible, awful, like the worst. And I guess that's why I was kind of relieved because I had such low expectations. But as the show's going on, I'm kind of like, certain storylines here and there. I'm like, it could have been more, it could have been executed with more polish. I see, even in this show, it's only two seasons, only 20 episodes, but there have been like storylines, and like, I understand why you had to make this character do this because this had to be the outcome and they had to create problems to solve problems. I get the mentality, but I just feel like there shouldn't be loopholes. And I think whenever I talk about series or movies, I always talk about having consistency within the characters, and I focus on not having any loopholes in the story. Like, I don't want to be taken out of the experience, the immersive experience that I have of a series or a movie when I can figure out or do the math behind, oh, so this only happened because that needed to happen. I don't want to have to do that, and I'm like really critical when it comes to directing, camera angles and storylines and actors and acting. So I guess I probably said that in the last episode too, but I am very critical about that, and I don't like to be taken out of the experience. I want to be able to experience things. Like, sometimes I will start watching something, I won't feel I won't feel the characters, I won't feel the acting, I won't feel the direction, and I will literally stop watching and delete it. And I will not be, no matter how famous it is, no matter how popular this thing got, I don't really focus on what's popular out there. I just hear something good about it, and if it's a genre that I don't like, maybe that'll be another reason I'll stop watching. Because going back to Whitney Cummings' podcast, good for you, go listen to it, it's great, huge episodes, but it's very insightful. And as a comedian, and I knew of her, but I guess watching her podcast, like, she's really smart. um so she also had, what's her name, the girl who plays Wednesday Adams from the Adams Family. What's her name? Wait. Yeah, her name is Christina Ricci. And I watched her episode with Whitney Cummings, and they talked about her recent show called Yellow Jackets. And they hyped it up. They're like, okay, it's a good series, it's a good series. And I bet it's a good series. But I usually just go for like lighthearted comedy, maybe some typical, romance, or maybe something horror. I don't really do thrillers. I don't really do a lot of serious stuff because I'm like already so emotional as a person. I don't need you to pile on the drama. Like, if it's fun, spicy drama, sure, I'll do with it. But if it's like dark, horrific drama, I'm like, not for me. So I even downloaded the entire season, and I watched maybe 1.5 episode. I'm like, maybe not for me, just not my genre. The acting was really good, the storyline was really interesting, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. And that'll be one other reason where I would start something that it could potentially be great. And maybe if I had sat down and like forced myself to watch a little bit, I could have gotten into it, because there have been other series where initially I was like, I don't know about this. Um, Maybe I'm just drawn to comedy. There's comedy in that show. It is mostly drama, and I just need some sort of comic relief in a story for me to, uh, I don't know, digest it, I guess. So that I couldn't watch, but it was looking good. I just couldn't finish it. So coming back to Dollface, when I first like intended on watching this, usually if I have intended on watching something, I will watch it. And if it's not out yet, I'll wait for it to come in a good print because I can afford them services. So I intended to watch it. My first thought was like Dollface. That's just such an interesting, weird name. And so you understand why it's called Dollface in like the first few episodes. Uh, Not gonna lie, I was kind of like turned off in the beginning. I'm like, do I really want to watch something that has something to do with dolls? Luckily, it has nothing to do with dolls. It's just this term of misogyny, or this sexist term that some characters in the show use. So I was kind of relieved when I started watching it. And like I was saying earlier, like when I know I'm gonna watch something, I will watch it. Like that's why I don't f with trailers. I don't watch any trailer. I don't see any stills. If I know I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna watch it regardless of how much praise there is in the press and how much or how terrible people have reviewed it. Um, I usually watch things for like personal attachments. Like, okay, I like Kat Dennings, I like Brenda Song, I like Shay Mitchell. They have a project together. Why not just go watch that? Because I really do believe in the credibility of an actor or a production team or a director that I know of. I really do believe in the credibility of that person, that whatever they will put out, they won't, just stamp their existence onto something that's mediocre. Even if it is, it's still something artistic that they believed in enough. And I think you have a few, maybe more than a few. You have the celebrities who are genuinely, thoughtful, kind, smart people who don't just randomly do every other movie. And if they do, that's part of their career. But I think I had heard, yet again, I don't remember where I discovered this show, but I'm pretty sure I saw something on YouTube. I don't know. But yeah, I know that if they're talking up to this and the storyline is interesting, and I will read like the blurb of it. Like I'll read like a few sentences of what it's about before watching it. And I think if the storyline is convincing, the actors are convincing, the director's convincing, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it. I'm down. I'm in. So another moderately prominent character in this series is Celeste, and Celeste is like the boss of Kat Denning, and it's played by Malin Ackerman. Malin Ackerman, I don't know how to pronounce it, and I knew of Malin Ackerman probably when I watched The Comeback, which is really a 2005 show with Lisa Kudrow, and it's such an interesting show. The Comeback, I'll start with. And her character is like the total opposite of who she is now. And Milan Ackerman in The Comeback is what Lisa Kudrow's show about being replaced in Hollywood because of ageism, right? And how your credibility and the desire for these celebrities dies down, especially for females, dies down because of the ageist society that is Hollywood. So she kind of plays the younger person who essentially replaces Lisa Kudrow's character. Um, that show is a little hard to watch because the structure of the show is so weird that it's not a traditional sitcom. It's more of a documentary, but it's still fictional. So if you want to go watch that, it's like an amazing commentary about ageism, especially for females. And that's where I initially had seen Malin Ackerman. And she's a great actress. Even in this in Dollface, her acting is impeccable. Her comedic timing is great. Even that show was comedic, so she has great comedic timing. She was also in like a few other series. I think she was in like Trophy Wife or something. I've only seen like a few episodes of that. But she does a great job as Celeste. Even the name Celeste is like so ethereal. Like I loved her character. It was really, she's like a boss woman, and I genuinely loved her character. Who else do we have in this show? Oh, we have Lily Singh, aka I Superwoman I. And after, I think she was in Bad Moms, that I can last recall. Her acting is very good. She plays a mother, and I was pleasantly surprised with Lily Singh's acting. And no surprise, Lily Singh is playing a queer character. That's very much her brand, and she does a great job actually. And it was really interesting seeing her. Like the casting. The casting is not what you think. There are a few faces here and there. Maybe not main roles, but you're like, oh, I know this person. I know this person. Like, there's so many like probably like 90s, because I am a 90s kid, and probably these 90s folks will be like, oh yeah, I know this person. Well, you have Lily Singh. She's not a 90s, but a lot of this cast is very nostalgic, I'll say. Like it was very fun discovering like, oh my god, she's in here. Oh my god, he's in there. So the casting, the production, the story, all is really great. And it's the second season. I think the second season came after 2 years because there's a pandemic in between, and they do acknowledge that a little bit in the beginning of the second season. But yeah, I hope there's a third season. I hope this continues to flourish, and I hope it gets more, you know, viewership. I hope it gets more popular because it really does deserve a larger audience. And I guess for female driven shows, especially that are very feminist in theme, they are kind of like put into a box and kind of shunned upon by a certain group of society, of our community. So I really hope that people do watch this and, enlighten themselves, because if anything, we know that our community really does need some enlightenment. Another thing that I would like to focus on, which it wasn't that prominent in this series, but it was the music. There were like some good songs in here. Like usually I will, if I probably talked about this in the first episode too, but when I find a song in a series that hits a chord with me, I will literally Google the house down boots and I will go look for that song. And there were a few songs where I was like, maybe I do want to search this, but not enough for me to be like, okay, this show has good songs and maybe I should go on TuneFind and look for the songs for this. So that didn't really stick out with me, but the music in this is still pretty good. I mean, maybe I didn't notice it because it was that good at blending in with the scenes and everything, but for the most part it wasn't anything where like, oh, the music in this is great, I'm really going to check this out, as opposed to Younger, maybe the Bold Type, in like I talked about in the last episode. But yeah, overall I think I'd give this show a solid 7.58 out of 10. I think it has a 7.5 on IMDb as well, which is a huge deal. Like, having a 7.5 on IMDb, either a lot of people aren't watching it, and the people who are, there's a niche audience and they really like it, or a lot of people have watched it and they really do like it. So I think it deserves a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb. It is a niche genre. It is very feminist forward, but it's a great show. Like, it's enjoyable. Like, sometimes I will start playing Scrabble on my phone during a few scenes or like a few bits of the show, but apart from that, it was pretty engaging. It was fun. It was not predictable. Well, it was sometimes where I said, they have like loopholes in the story, but apart from that, I'm really glad I watched it. So yeah, that's all for me for today. Hopefully I'll find somebody I'll convince somebody to be on this podcast with me, and if anyone else is interested, do hit me up. I would be happy to arrange something with you. We could have a Zoom meeting if you're far away. If not, we could meet up, keeping like following SOPs and everything. So yeah, take care of yourselves and hope y'all have amazing days and amazing months and amazing years. Goodbye.